And is the servant greater than his Lord? Shall we, partakers of the great salvation which he wrought out for us, refuse to follow our Lord and to share in his self-denial? When the world's Redeemer, who has suffered so much for us, shall we, the members of his body, live in thoughtless self-indulgence? No, self-denial is an essential condition of discipleship. Here we see that God's love is the foundation of giving. Genuine giving is not a forced duty, but a natural response to God's love. When we recognize God's immense love for us, the plan of salvation in the gift of Jesus Christ, we are moved to share with others. Genuine love, not obligation, should be the driving force behind our generosity. Many people give out of a sense of duty, guilt, or expectation. But true giving comes from a heart that has experienced God's love. The more we understand God's love, the more naturally we will give. Christ as our head led out in the great work of salvation, but he has entrusted that work to his followers upon earth. It cannot be carried on without means, and he has given his people a plan for raising means sufficient to make his cause prosperous. So we see here that that giving reflects the character of Christ. Christ did not have to come down on earth, give up his glory, to take the form of man, creation, to die for us, knowing that we would reject him eventually. You know, he came out of love to bridge the gap, to restore. He was the restorer of the breach that was broken between man and God through sin. So he came to show us, he is our example, to show us how we should live. So here we see that Jesus lived a life of selflessness, constantly giving of his time, his energy, himself, and ultimately his life for humanity. As followers of Christ, we are called to imitate this life of selflessness in our daily lives. We need to examine our motives for giving. If we give only when it is convenient, we are not fully reflecting Christ's character. Instead, our giving should be a lifestyle mirroring Christ's sacrificial life. So when we give, we have to search the motive in why we give it. Is it because we feel obligated? Is it because we feel like we have no choice? You know, or is it because of our genuine love for God and in turn for man? Because if you see somebody suffering, or you see a beggar on the road, you'll not pass them straight. Just like Christ made sure he found himself in certain places to help people, to heal the woman with the issue of blood, to heal the sick, to make the blind see. It's the same thing. Since he is our example, it's the same thing we need to do. Growing up, I remember my mom always told me, never give somebody something you don't want. She always said that. She said the true test in giving and love is giving something, yes, you love it for yourself, but the true test is giving, because you don't want to give somebody something, an old, especially if it's clothes, you don't want to give somebody something that's worn out or torn, or, you know, you give out of love. So the same thing you'd want for yourself, you do it to others, because the same thing, love for God, love for man, what you'd like to do, the golden rule, do unto others as you love them to do unto you. So The same thing you'd want somebody to do, the same way you'd want them to share with you if you didn't have, is the same way you would do. Because I remember being a part of community services back home. People gave stuff, and when I went through it, I wouldn't even give it to a beggar, I wouldn't even give it to a vagrant on the street, because it was so deplorable, you know. And I always remember my mom saying, don't give what you don't want. Here, as I go on, let me see. When the world's Redeemer has suffered so much for us, shall we, members of his body, live in thoughtless self-indulgence? No, self-denial is an essential condition of discipleship. Christ, as our head, led out in the great work of salvation, but he has entrusted that work to his followers upon earth. It cannot be carried on without means, and he has given his people a plan for raising sufficient to make his cause prosperous. The tithing system instituted for this purpose reaches back to the time of Moses, even as far back as the days of Adam, long before the definite system was given. Men are required to offer to God gifts for religious purposes. So we see here that there's God instituted the tithing system, that okay. The tithing system, out of love for God, you would be willing, you would give a willing offering, a willing gift to God, and in turn to others. So we see here that God does not compel us to give to his cause. He doesn't compel us to give to his cause. Our action must be voluntary. He will not have his treasury replenished with unwilling offering. So we see selfishness is the opposite of Christ-like love, and is dangerous to our spiritual growth. Those who hoard their resources or give only grudgingly miss out on the blessing that comes with a generous spirit. Selfishness leads to spiritual stagnation. If we focus on our needs, we hinder our ability to grow in faith and experience the fullness of God's blessings. So it reminds me of the widow's mite, where the scribes were in the temple giving, everybody was given out of the abundance, but this widow went and she gave out of the little that she had, and her blessing was much greater, because that was the true sacrifice, given willingly and not grudgingly, thinking, okay, if I give, I will not have for myself. But she didn't think of that. She just thought of, because of her love for God, she gave willingly. And this is what we need to do as well. Give willingly for the cause of God, not thinking about ourselves, but thinking about how it will help others and further the work of God. His design in this plan of systematic giving was to bring us into close relationship with our Creator and in sympathy and love with our fellow human beings, thus placing upon us responsibilities that would counteract selfishness and strengthen disinterested, generous impulses. We are inclined to be selfish and to close our hearts to generous deeds. The Lord, by requiring gifts to be made at stated times, designed that giving should become a habit and be looked upon as a Christian duty. The heart opened by one gift was not to have time to close and become selfishly cold before another offering was bestowed. So we see there that habitual giving strengthens the soul. When giving becomes a habit, it transforms both the giver and the receiver. Generosity develops Christian virtues such as compassion. I remembered the study, compassion, humility, and it strengthens our faith as well. It brings joy and spiritual blessings to the giver. Giving refines our character. The more we practice generosity, the less selfish we become. Over time, giving becomes second nature, strengthening our relationship with God and with others. Every man and woman and child may become a treasurer for the Lord. It is for our own good that He has planned to have us bear some part in the advancement of His cause. He has honored us by making us co-workers with Him. He ordained that there should be a necessity for the cooperation of His people, that they may cultivate and keep in exercise their benevolent affections. So here we see that God rewards cheerful givers. Those who give freely will never lack God's blessings. The cheerful giver, not necessarily with wealth, but with deeper spiritual joy and a faith and peace that passeth all understanding. While giving may require sacrifice, God provides for those who trust Him, take Him at His word. Generosity opens the door for God's grace in our lives. So when we develop that Christ-like character, because God is love, and if we're followers of Christ, we should have that love, not love in expecting something back, even if the person you might be giving may not be able to give back to you, but because of your love for humanity, your love for God and your love for humanity, it will be like second nature, natural thing for you. So I said in conclusion, genuine love for God challenges us to make generosity a daily practice motivated by love rather than obligation. We see that giving is not just about money, it's about sharing time, kindness, resources in a way that reflect Christ's love. God honors those who honor Him, and our strongest motivation should be a deep desire to bring honor to God. Thank you. I forgot an important note I made. It says, when selfish interests take hold